In example 2, we need to solve for the missing side. So here our missing side is h. We have this side is 7.5 and this side is 15.3. So here's my right angle. This is the hypotenuse. And I have two sides, and these are what we call the legs. So I don't have any angles, so I'm going to have to use the Pythagorean theorem. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. C squared, remember, this is always the hypotenuse. So here's my hypotenuse. So this, in this case, is h squared. And then I've got 7.5 squared plus 15.3 squared. Okay, so I throw that into my calculator. So 7.5 squared plus 15.3 squared. And I get that this is 290.34 equals h squared. This is h squared though, and I don't want to know what h squared is. I want to know what h is. So to undo a square, we need to take the square root. So just like you undo a multiplication with division, you undo a square with a square root. So that's just h. And now I use the square root button on my on my calculator. So I use the square root of 290.34, and I get that that is 17.03. We're to 1 centimeter, or 0.1, one decimal place. There we go. So 17, I'm going to say 17.0 because it would be 17.03. So it's 17.0, and make sure you have your units, which is centimeters. And there's my answer for A. Now let's look at B. Again, here I have a right triangle. Here's my two legs. This is the hypotenuse. And now I have one leg and I'm missing the other. So if I write a squared plus b squared equals c squared, now I have the hypotenuse. C is the hypotenuse, so this is 9.3 squared. And it doesn't matter which one I pick. I'll just make this b. So this is a squared plus 4.3 squared. But I want to get a squared. So let's think about this for a second. If I said 2 plus 3 is 5, to get 2 from 3 and 5, it would be 5 minus 3 is 2. So a squared is equal to 9.3 squared minus 4.2 squared. So basically, if you're trying to solve for a leg, you're always going to subtract, and you're going to subtract from the hypotenuse. Everything's going to be squared, so hypotenuse squared minus the other leg squared. Whereas up here, when you're solving for solving for the hypotenuse, you're going to add because it's the longest one. So solving for the hypotenuse, add. Solving for a leg, you need to subtract, and you subtract from the biggest thing, which is the hypotenuse. So now putting this into my calculator, a squared is equal to 9.3 squared minus 4.2 squared, and I get 68.85. Not a bad idea actually to have an intermediate step in here. So a squared is equal to, so 9.3 squared would be 86.49, and 4.2 squared is 17.64. You don't have to show that step. Good idea to make sure that I know what's going on when I'm marking it. Oh, sorry, I'm just rewriting that. So a squared, at any rate, is equal to 68.85. The last thing you always do in a Pythagoras question is take the square root every single time. So the square root of a squared is just a, and then the square root of 68.85 is equal to 8.29. We're going to 1 decimal place, so 8.3 millimeters. And I should have actually made that S. We'll make that S. These should have been S's all along because that's what we're given. So that's an S and that's an S. There you have it.